Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TriVersity Talk. I am Stephen Bloomer-Teague.
And I am Wendy Stewart-Kaplan, and happy pre-Halloween. I'm in the mood. I had to bring my pumpkin tonight. We have the best guest tonight.
Yes, we do. And for that guest, I mean, she brought her pumpkin. I'm bringing lumbersexual realness right now. So
is that what they call it?
That's what they call this. I mean, so
it's cute.
Yeah, we're very excited. Great guest, funny as hell. But before we get to our guest, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to give this a like. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel or to our Facebook page, feel free to give a subscribe or hit that thumbs up. We really appreciate it. It helps us get these videos out there. Also, TriVersity is conducting a needs assessment survey, which I've thrown up the link up here to take it. If you are in the tri-state area, whether you've been to a TriVersity event or not, take it. We'd love to hear from you. I mean, obviously, you're doing something with TriVersity right now if you're hearing me ramble about this.
And the survey is really quick. It's easy. As I tell everyone, it took me 12 minutes. I don't like doing this kind of thing. So you really help us. We get to know what your likes, your dislikes are, and what we need to be doing to keep you happy, because we want to keep you happy.
Absolutely. That is our goal. So that's all the fun beginning stuff.
The brouhaha.
So Wendy, why don't you tell us more about tonight's guest?
Jaye McBride is hilarious. She is a trans comedian. She is got so many funny things to say. And I loved her set so much. I listened to her, all her YouTube things again and again and again. And you know what? It takes a lot to make me laugh, ladies and gentlemen. You know that? Well, she had me cracked up 6 ways to Sunday. So without further ado.
We're not just going to talk about Jaye McBride's work. We're going to have you listen to a little clip. So let's see how seamless this is.
All right, here we go.
Hey.
A lot of guys lying online. That's kind of tough. I got a guy who messaged me, talking about being dating. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just so new at it. I'm new at it." Then I found out later that he's actually married. So I told him to, go F himself, right? And he's like, "Oh, well, that's not very ladylike." I'm like, well, I'm new at it. I actually like going to bars to meet guys. Anyone else? Just me. More for me. I know they say you shouldn't do that, right? Because everybody's drinking and impairs your judgment, right? Well, that's where I step in. I'm like, drink up, fellas. And tomorrow a hangover won't be the worst thing you wake up to. I have 3 brothers. 2 of them are so great. Two of the 3 brothers are so great. One brother actually disowned me when I found out that I'm transgender. But, I try and take the high road, Like when he and his wife had a child, I sent them the nicest greeting card. It said, "Congratulations, it's a boy. For now."
Great.
Jaye, welcome to TriVersity Talk.
Thank you so much. And I actually have that card right here. You can only get it when you show up at go to one of my shows. That's it. I'm sorry. It's a thing. So thank you for having me. This is really cool. And that clip, I looked like I had hope in my eyes. It was well before 2020.
Oh, that's so funny, right? Well, but comedy often comes from tragedy, right?
Very true. Very true.
Have you found that a lot of the stuff that you do and you write come from experiences that maybe weren't great, so you kind of have to turn them around?
It's hard because I've only known tragedy. So no. God, that sounds miserable. No, for the most, I think that's whether or not. I think my best jokes definitely came from a situation where like something bad that I turned to a positive, and I think I think that goes a long way. It's for a while I wouldn't even talk about being trans on stage. I used to try and because, at the time I was like, I don't want to be pigeonholed or whatever. I don't want to, but the more I talked about it and talked about the actual struggles of being trans and again, I started like over 10 years ago. So the more I talked about it, the more I felt like it made me happier to be who I was, so it's really a great thing.
Don't you think when people hear you though, that part of what makes it so funny, when you describe dating and everything, it's the honesty. It's your honesty or your truth or whatever. And it makes us laugh because everyone can connect that way. And I guess that's what it's about. Just stand up in general. I wanted to ask you, what do you find the most challenging about, you're up there and it's like being naked. It really is. And your heart is going like that. What do you do to connect? What do you do to calm yourself down? What do you tell yourself?
Right. Nothing's as scary as when I see myself naked. So I ask anyone I've dated, they have the same reaction. Honestly, I say honestly a lot. I don't know. It's like I'm lying to you. I'm not even trans. I don't even know what this honesty bullshit is. I'm totally. What I do usually before I go on stage, I actually try and work with that, and I get myself very pumped up, sort of thing. Like I'll play like almost like like someone going into a fight, like the music they would play, like if you're gonna watch
yeah, like Rocky.
Right. Well, only not 1970s, like imagine an updated Rocky, like the Matrix. Let's go with the Matrix, okay? So like the Matrix, like Neo's about to fight or something. Like I play music like that to get myself really pumped, and then I go out and just like bam and let it rip. And it's worked so far. So
Have you ever had an audience that you've had to play to, or even a time slot or a comedian you had to follow where it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
All the time, all the time. Especially, I mean, now that I'm at the Comedy Cellar, it's like I'll follow an amazing comedian every single time, because that's all they have there are amazing comedians. Like having to follow having to follow Rich Voss, it's just, you can't, no one could follow, or Dave Attell or Greer Barnes, like all these great comics. So but I think that some of the more challenging audiences at the time that at least got in my head a little bit, like I performed, it's like Nebraska, Indiana, like these red states.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like they've never seen a trans person, or they have, but only during tranny hunting season, where they try and mount me on their wall. But
oh my God,
I don't know. It's I don't know if they still have it. Thanks, Obama. But I feel like, so you talk to those crowds, and it's just, at the time, the first thing you think of is immediately like in the back of your head, like they hate me. They're going to hate me. They don't like trans people. They're going to hate me. And then eventually, like, as you see that they're not these evil people, they're there to laugh too. And once they give you a chance, and like people in general aren't evil. I know things have gotten way worse over the past 3 years, and there are a lot of people that are, but for the most part, regardless of political affiliations, like I think people at deep down are pretty good. So as I started to tell my story a little bit, these like ultra conservative people would start laughing more and more and come up to the show. There were people who just wanted to talk to me afterwards. Like I didn't know what to expect, but that was really funny. So it really made me think,
And like you said, this could have been a number of people's first exposure to a trans person, and their first exposure, they're laughing and enjoying, and this has got to influence, their
right.
And I'm not some
influencer.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not some monster just trying to like indoctrinate their kids or like, just raid restrooms looking for helpless stray children,
Right.
And so they see me as a real person. And again, like things like dating, parents, therapy, things that everyone knows about or something, well, maybe not therapy, but that's just maybe me. But they see me, and hopefully they think about that, hopefully the next time they see an ad about like, a bill comes up about whether or not to allow trans children into locker rooms, they're not going to fight it as hard, hopefully. So.
But it's so incredible because thinking about what you're saying, I didn't think of it that way. You know, you're incredibly entertaining. You make people laugh, but I never thought of it till you just said it now. What an incredible bridge somebody like you really, really can be in terms of communicating, because especially now things are so polarized. And yet you're right. You've gone into red states and they see you and they may be conservative. They may have different politics than you. But what you do is you connect with them on a real human level, which is laughter. And
right.
Laughter is, and often the pain that brings that laughter on the experiences that we all have in our lives, right? That are humiliating or we don't feel so great about ourselves. There they see you on stage, you're communicating that. And the whole thing becomes very human. And I never thought of that until you just said it right now. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and that wasn't my goal. I didn't set out to do that, but as by not, you don't turn down opportunities. So whether it's in Indiana or if it's in the city, you just you say yes, usually. And so it's one of those things that I realized more and more of how important it was. And again, I don't think it's as different as it was like 5-10 years ago. You see trans people more often now. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner came out and then forget it. Everyone's heard of a trans. So I mean, for better, for worse, they have an idea now. But I think at the time, there weren't a lot of trans people. And the ones that were out there, the ones that were on TV were these caricatures. And so it's, it felt more and more important the more I did it.
Now, do you ever have a fear, because anyone who is a minority who does something like you're doing, like comedy, you become, oh, she's a great woman comedian. Oh, he's a great gay comedian. I mean, do you ever feel like you're lumped in as a trans comedian? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, my biggest fear is being caught on YouTube and being called a Karen. That's still my biggest fear. But I don't know. I just know.
Oh my God.
That's right. Oh, it's one of those Karen comedians. She's gonna send this order back. She's gonna send it back. Just watch, film her. I think no matter what, I never wanted to be known as a trans comedian, but there's no getting around it. I think we're not as ubiquitous as the white male comedian. So there are someone that sees me will think of me as the trans comedian because some of the jokes are trans. And I think that just comes with it. I don't think you can, even if I didn't talk about it, if they knew I was trans, I think it would be that way. It's just how it is. And I've come to accept it, I guess. So I wouldn't say I like it or dislike it. It is what it is. And I think it's being trans has closed some doors, but it's also opened some doors. So, what can you do? I guess that's it.
I think it gives you leverage, in ways that you might not have had it. Everyone, like when you're a performer, you need to have a hook. What is it? You got to have a gimmick, right? Everyone's got to have a hook or whatever. And, it gives you leverage really over your audience. It's unexpected. And then you come out and you start to talk about everyday situations, right? Your family, your therapist, your dating, and people sitting there are going, they all have that aha moment. So it's a really great way to connect with people.
No, it is absolutely. But in terms of the business aspect of it, I don't want a booker to say no, we won't book her for the weekends, but we'll have her on Wednesday because there happens to be a LGBT night. Or we happen to have a ladies' night. It's like I want to be seen as a comedian. I don't want to be seen strictly as let's just put all the trans comedians together. That and then it just narrows. It's fine to preach to the choir. When you have an LGBT crowd and you're only playing to people that are on your side. But I think I just still would like it if I the more doors that are open. So. In in terms of that, being the trans comedian, definitely, it gets on you in that aspect from the business point of view.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, the course that you're on now, you're just you're funny.
Oh, really thanks.
Funny. And that's all I left with. You made me laugh. I'm a tough customer. You made me
laugh. Good.
And certainly anyone booking a night of comedy, you'd be absolutely terrific. So to have you there. Well, I'm curious, you've been a comedian, what, 10 years?
Yeah, it was 11, just over 11. A little
over 11 years. Yeah. Like, what made you go down this primrose path of all the paths you could have taken?
Right. It was the only thing that could lead to more heartache than being trans, you know? So I wanted it too. Like,
oh my God. I'm sorry. That's great.
I mean, I lost enough friends being trans. It's like, let's lose the other half too and go into comedy. And now I think all right. I've always loved comedy. You know, my family, we always like if you could make someone laugh, that was more important than grades. You know, like if you're good in sports, that's number one. But if you can make someone laugh, that's pretty close too. So my family always enjoyed that humor, you know, and I still remember seeing like back in the day, it was a big deal when someone got on David Letterman or one of the late night talk shows, because, you know, and just staying up to watch some of those comedians. But after I did comedy at a talent show growing up, and that was it. And then later on, as I grew up, I transitioned, and it seemed like, you know what, let's try it again. Let's just try it again. And I don't know how to put this, but like, it wasn't, you know, when I transitioned in 2007, it wasn't like you could just get a job like everyone else and move your way up. Doors are still shut in your face if you're trans.
2007, they were.
Yeah. Like I remember working in retail jobs as a guy. I tell people this: I was never turned down for a promotion. I had something like 8 in the 3 different stores, or so, you know, it's something stupid. Like I always worked my way up, and it was no problem. But then I transitioned, and I never got a promotion. And I was always turned down. And part of it could be like, well, you know, it's just life. It's a coincidence. Or you'd be like, well, it's because you're a woman, or it's because you're trans. And you start to realize, like, if these certain career paths that are so defined are now shut off from you, what are the career paths that are less defined? And so I said, well, let's go to an open mic anyway. And even if I don't make a career out of it, it'll be a fun thing to try out. You know, I talking to my brothers, I know we can make each other laugh. Let's see if I could do it, you know, as a visceral reaction. And it's something I enjoyed, and it's something I kept at, and it's worked out well for me. So,
well, interesting. Growing up, you had a set audience, right? It seems like it's a logical thing that you become a comedian. You were a funny kid, and that really overrides. You know, humor is what it is. You know, you can't become an unfunny person. Were you like the class clown? Were you cut up in school?
Yeah, I was the class clown. Yes, I was. It was a hotly contested race that year, but I managed to beat out my friend Christine, the other. No, and I think it's a great defense mechanism or deflection when you don't want people to see. I didn't want people to see that I was effeminate, you know, God forbid. But if I could deflect things into humor, they could look at me that way, and that's sort of it was how I identified.
Do you think that's true of other comedians as well, that comedy becomes that kind of outlet? Not necessarily like always deflection, but in a way of getting joy out of things that might not be so joyful.
You know, I really don't know. I think it's a good question. I think a lot of comics definitely have that. And like you said earlier, Wendy, like how tragedy plus time equals comedy. So I think some people have this upbringing and they do need a bent, but also like in our culture, like humor is it's just one of the, like, it's one of those visceral reactions that everyone likes to laugh. So when you see, I think some people just want to have that so they can make someone laugh because they're impressed when other people do it. Some have noticed that about themselves, and some just have an empty hole in their soul that they need filling with.
that they need filled.
Right. It's like it's either that or serial killing. So they choose comedy.
That's a tough choice, but comedy seems to be the way to go.
Right.
So do you see yourself as a comedian? Do you see yourself? I know you said you did short films, right? Do you want to pursue an acting career as well?
I think that ship has sailed a little bit. You know, I think I would have liked that. I don't know that I'll you know, Yeah, I've done a couple little things here and there, and I had some cool opportunities and cool. Like I was in, I got to be one of the background people, like one of the prostitutes getting thrown into a paddy wagon in what's that Armstead Mopan, Tales of the City on Netflix. So that was fun.
Of course.
Yeah, I got to have a cop rough me up a little bit, which was fun, and throw me as a 1950s trans prostitute. That was awesome. That was great. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, there were. I just kind of think that, like I said, that ship has sailed a little bit. So I know it's never too late, I'm supposed to say, but it's too late.
Yeah, I don't agree with you at all. I have a number of trans friends that are performers, and I have watched the industry change, not as much as we would all like, but I cannot believe the strides that have happened. Something that does bother me a lot, we're so trendy, right? And now it's trendy to have a trans actor after we've had Orange is the New Black. There've been so many shows, right? Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that it's a permanent thing. You know what I'm saying? That you go out there, you audition just like anyone else, and you get the role. And believe me, Jay, that ship has not sailed. I am not going to let that ship sink or sail. I'm going to put swimmies on you, little floaties, and you're just going to go for it.
Right. Hoist the mizzen mast or whatever. All that shit. Let me just like if I were to get into acting, it's not something you're immediately good at. I assume it's like comedy. It takes some time to, and I'm not getting any younger, and Hollywood definitely likes to skew younger for literally everything. So when I say that ship is sailing, I mean, but it's if I were to spend a lot of time and got really good at it, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I won't rule it out. How's that? For you.
An improvement.
Okay.
So how do you develop the craft of comedy? What do you have to do to get your paces, to learn the timing that you have so brilliantly mastered?
Yeah, I think a lot of timing is natural, and I don't know that you can change that. I think some people that are naturally funny, but there are some things when you're working at comedy, things like the cadence of a joke. Like some jokes just have that set cadence, like so da 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 da, or something, and like I think it's just getting that timing right, learning where to add a word, subtract a word. I mean, there are some jokes where you just like one little word can actually make a huge difference, and I think most of mine are terrible jokes that I do that with. But so I was trying to think of an example, but like, all right, I'll do this little. All right, it's a Zoom joke, okay? It's much better in person.
We want it. We're begging.
Right. I talk about how hot my mechanic is, and I say like I go in there, I want to come out. Like I go in there for an oil change, and I want to come out with a big greasy handprint, like here, here, right? And then I say I want to come out of that place looking like a baby pelican in an oil spill, which is terrible. But
no, but it is funny.
Here's the thing: that joke would always work okay, but when I said baby pelican instead of pelican, it just became one of my biggest laughs. And because I don't know, I've demented followers. I don't know, but it's just that one word, and you learn to tweak certain words, and you learn to get it in a certain rhythm, and it just works better. Like that's not really a great example, but some words are too long, some jokes are too long, some are too short. So it just takes practice.
Like the timing and the rhythm. I listened to you a lot. I liked your rhythm. Your pacing, and even the way you worked with the audience, the laughter, right? That because those are all elements you have to work with. If you even get off a little bit, it can blow the whole thing.
Yeah. And again, like if you would have seen me interact with the crowd when I first started, it would have been terrible. It would have been, it's just as you do it more and more, you get better at it, like anything else. So I would like mishand, like I would have, I don't know. Believe me, I've bombed several times after talking to the audience. so it just happens.
Have you watched the marvelous Mrs. Maisel? Good gracious.
I watched the first episode. Someone at the Comedy Cellar, one of my writes for it, and I remember I was talking to him once, and I have watched a couple episodes, and it was really good. Honestly, I love Tony Shalhoub, but it just haven't really finished the whole thing, but I liked it.
Curious if that feels like an act, you know, like a real depiction of the craft and developing it, but.
Well, it was also so much different back then too, you know, and even like, it's amazing if you look at comedy now versus even 20 years ago. Like when I was growing up, it was this like, well, probably before then. Like I do you remember Kevin Meaney? The comedian Kevin Meaney? Right. Well, I worked with him a few times, and he was talking about the time he went on Johnny Carson. It's like he went on Johnny Carson, and immediately the next day he was blowing up with phone calls. He was known across the country. He would keep and funny guy, nice guy, and it was that one little thing. And I don't know that there is that one thing anymore. There are so many different ways. Like you could be funny on TikTok, or you'd be funny on YouTube videos, or you get. So I mean, it's amazing how much has changed. It's no longer one thing, you know.
Bigger platform now. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was coming up, it was Saturday Night Live. That was everybody's big, you know, goal that they wanted to reach, to be on Saturday Night Live. Like you were saying, I knew Kevin Meaney also. And I think of a lot of the people I knew back then that I aspired to, and you just don't even hear their names anymore. And they were so funny. I don't know what happens.
Well, I think a lot of it too, like at the time, there weren't a lot of places to get humor, you know, and now you can get it anywhere. You can, we live in the first time ever. We don't have to be bored. You know, we can watch something now if we want to laugh, and it's just changed. And by the way, and side note, Kevin Meaney was just like one of the nicest guys. I'm so grateful I got a chance to meet him. He was great.
Yeah. I'm glad you gave him the shout out. He is a really great guy.
Well, he was.
A good point about where people can get funny now. Like my feelings go a little bit both ways about this, like TikTok. You know, because I'm in the entertainment industry, I've been doing it a long time. I want to be booked as that. And then I go on TikTok. Oh, Freudian slip. I go on there and I see people that are they're really hilarious, but they're like regular people. And then they become viral. And then they're vying for the same jobs I'm going up for. And I get a little bitter, okay? I'll say.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's almost... It's you know, it's the people that it's no longer a meritocracy, you know, like the funniest people aren't going to be the ones that get booked all the time. You know, it's the ones that a marketing person sees and says, let's turn this person into a star and we'll add this team behind you and do it, you know, and again, you can't be bitter because it'll just eat you up. You know, you have to let it go. And the other thing is, if it can happen with one person, it can happen with another. So it's comedy's changed, and it's not just the quarantine, it's everything, you know. So still, if you can find a way to make someone laugh, maybe it's not on stage, maybe it's, you know, doing whatever. I don't know.
So how has comedy changed during the quarantine?
It's I don't want to say it's dead, but no, it's so tough because you need that like physical contact, that interaction, that like
it's so
to talk. Right. It's when I'm on Zoom to people that I can't even see because their cameras are off, you know, and you know, like when Jeff Toobin and I are Zooming, and it gets weird. But that was a weird story. I don't know, Jeff Toobin. I don't know. That was a weird story.
Tangent there.
Right, little tangent. But when I'm Zooming with someone, it's just different. It's like you're talking to someone, and they may even be muted. You may not be getting any feedback whatsoever. And you know, being a comedian, you have to be a little narcissistic. You have to feed off that to some extent. So it's just crazy. Or like doing it in the park. You know, there are a couple places that do it outdoors in the park. Those are okay. They're closer to comedy, but it's hard to describe. It's like, you know, when you're watching someone trying to talk to you over Zoom, something not meant for comedy.
I'll tell you, I was watching figure skating's my thing. I'm just gonna
what?
And love it.
Love it.
Lumbersexuals love figure skating. But anyway, so I'm watching this competition live, and you just got to feel for these skaters because this event, they have cardboard cutouts for like the audience. And I'm like, oh, if I looked up and saw that, I would fall on my ass because I would just be so depressed.
And they're like the weirdest thing. Like they'll have like a team mascot as a cutout of a person, or something weird. Like they do that for sports too. For the other one, not that figure skating isn't a sport. I apologize. Figure skating, it's a sport. I apologize.
Yeah,
I'll back off. I don't want to have words. No, but yeah, I can't imagine.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, but on the comedy front, I mean, it's more important than ever to laugh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's this real strange balance that has to be met. I mean, even though you're on Zoom, I mean, people need that, even if it's not giving you kind of the dopamine hits.
Right.
Dopamine.
Yeah, I'll just have to go back to being a drug mule and getting my dopamine hit that way. It's just how it is for now. But no, but I mean, so I still have outlets. It's just not comedy anymore, and that's kind of sad. But it'll come back.
What your outlets are?
Well, I actually, I love tweeting a lot. I love tweeting my jokes there. I actually spent a lot of time drawing and doing cartoons, and that's been a lot of fun. That's been kind of new and different, and I still get my sick sense of humor out that way. So there, I still have something. It's not the same as stand-up, but stand-up's not there. It's not gone. It'll come back. And it's just the world's changed. What can you do?
But you just brought up another good. It's just one good point after the next with you, Jay.
I know. Aren't I just an encyclopedia of useless?
Just a treasure trove. But here's the thing, and you just said it. The pandemic really forced you out of your box, right?
Yes.
I feel I have been the most creative I've ever been in my life, starting March 12th when they shut New York down, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. All right. Yes. And we've been forced. We've had to use our talents in other ways. Now, there have been people I know, creative people I know, they can't. They've shut down. They're depressed over this. I was not a technical person, even a little bit. He'll vouch for that. I had to totally reinvent who I am, what I'm about on Zoom. I'm talking to a goddamn computer. Someone had told me that a year ago, and that I'd be performing on Zoom shows. I would have said, "Are you on crack?" But
I'd have been like, "What's Zoom?
What's Zoom?" But look at what you're doing. Your cartooning is comedy. You're doing your thing. You're just doing it differently. And I don't believe that we'll be back in clubs again. This thing that the world has changed and the new normal. I completely reject that, because things will. Hopefully, we'll all, as people, be bigger people, because we've gone through this, right? Look at how it's affected all of us. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be brilliant at what we do.
Right. Honestly, yeah. And I mean, I think when I say comedy, it's definitely changed. But I mean, to say that, it's not over. It's not like the end of stand-up comedy. It's not the end of performing. It's not the end of in-person performing. Right. Like that'll always be. They probably said that when the TV came out, or something. I don't know.
So what's the worst thing that anyone, when audiences get really drunk, you have that end of the night set when they're all inebriated. What's the worst thing anyone's ever said to you? There had to be a heckler.
Oh, yeah. Bachelorette parties are the worst.
Oh my God.
They're the absolute worst. I remember one said something like it was probably the fiance just said, do you have your balls? Which I'm like, first of all, it's like, who the fuck are you? I just said, I cannot wait for your husband to cheat on you. I can't wait for it to rain. And this is during Zika. I was like, I want it to rain on your wedding, mosquitoes to come in, all you to get Zika, and then have I just went off on this mean, nasty thing on her, and they left. And I'm like,
good.
I'm like, yeah, whatever. So
please, I always consider it like a low-key nightmare when you're at a gay bar and a bachelorette party comes in, because I'm like, oh gosh, because they all think the gays are their friends, and they can be
you just got to tell them we're not.
Yeah, and they're 9 times out of 10 they're conservative, so I mean, it's like fuck off. All right, you want to be my friend, go vote for my rights.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
So So, Jay, we have a question from our dear Simone. She says, manage with being a more visible trans woman with the haters, especially on social media. And she said, I enjoy your Facebook posts when you talk about that.
Well, first of all, Simone's awesome. So thank you for that. And I think
love Simone. And Simone introduced you to Simone. Thank you. I thank her a million times. I love Simone.
Yeah, and Simone actually has messaged me a couple times. So it's I'm very glad that I got to meet her through Facebook. But I think being more visible, like first of all, doing comedy, you're forced to be more visible. And as I did comedy and as I became out more, I started to really get this hard shell. like my spirit animal is an armadillo, like I am, it's like, you're not going to penetrate this armor. So now I'm just like bringing, and I never used to be, I used to be like this wallflower, I didn't want to go out ever. I wanted to hide, hopefully go stealth and have no one ever know that I was trans. That was my goal back in the day. And then you just realize that you get out there more and more. It's like, yeah, maybe you get attention from haters, but I live in a place where that's not an issue in New York City. I'm fortunate enough to where like people like I joke about it. It's like there's a tranny in every subway car. It's like the way it is. But there's something to be said about like walking down with your shoulders back, your head held high, being like, no one here is gonna screw with me. I don't care, and just plowing through. And I feel like that's one of the more powerful things, just to be like, I'm not a victim here, and I just like, I guess just, I don't know, be that armadillo shell.
So on the armadillo shell front, I mean, in the clip that we shared, I mean, you talked about your brother, I mean, I guess effectively disowning you. So, I mean, how, in your transition and dealing with that, how do you get through events like that?
It was brutal. It was, I think if you're going to transition again, I feel like an old lady, old trans lady, like the one down, like talk to her. She's got some stories. But, she transitioned back in 2007. But I feel like I sort of resigned myself to like I assumed I would lose more family members, quite frankly. I really thought, like, coming from a small town, like conservative family, I thought I was going to lose more. So I think I went into it like, look, you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose family, but you have to do it to be happy. You have to. There's no other way around it. So it was tough. Like at the time, he had my only nephews and niece. So it was to have them basically taken away from me. Like, and I love visiting them. I love giving them Christmas presents. I love spending time with them. To have them taken away was hard. With him, I'm like, well, fuck off. Sorry. I've been so good not swearing, but I was like, you know what? You're a jerk. I don't need you in my life. There are plenty of people around that like me, and they're my family now, But meanwhile, my two younger brothers, we've never been closer. So.
Right. There's always a trade-off,
Yeah.
You do have the support of your younger brothers. And then, we always say, then you have your chosen family, right? The friends that we meet along the way, that they do become family.
Yeah.
They don't need to be blood. They do become family, which is so amazing for all of us. So I wanted to ask you, what's your relationship like with your father? And one of your jokes, you talk about killing him. I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah, talk about. It's totally fake. Actually, my relationship now is great. I transitioned.
Great. What changed it?
Well, I transitioned, and he's burning in hell. So it really worked out. No, he passed away. I lied.
He passed away.
Right, so it's fine. It's great. I haven't heard a peep from him. I do joke a little bit about his reaction. I'll tell you a story about what happened when I transitioned too. But he actually passed away before I went full time as trans. So, but he would have flipped out. Like I remember when I was little, I didn't know what they called trans people at the time. When I was like, I think I was like 10. I knew I was different. I knew like God made this mistake when he made me. It's like, no, I came out of the wrong chute. I was supposed to go down the girls' chute. I knew that was it, but I didn't know what it meant. And we were watching this like it was like 8 o'clock in the evening variety show, like a talk show kind of thing. And I saw these female impersonators, they called them at the time, drag queens and female impersonators. And, my brothers are like doing guy stuff, like hitting each other with a wiffle ball bat or something. And I'm looking at these, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. That's what I need to do. That's what and it was like this eureka moment. And right as I had that epiphany, my dad walked into the room, looked at the TV, looked at us, and said, "If any of you turn out like that, I'll kill you." So,
wow.
So I mean, it was this like that's always stuck with me. I was like, oh, at the time, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell everyone what a great thing this is me. And then my dad walks in, and I'm like, all right, so now I have to hide. So
just shutting down again.
I tell you, one of those childhood memories I have the most, and we have a TriVersity board member who is Jim and the Holograms. I don't know if you know about Jim and the Holograms.
Oh yeah, of course.
I love Jim and the Holograms, and he heads like a Jim convention. But I love the show. And at nursery, this girl had a Jim and the Holograms doll. And so I started playing with it. And my father drives up, and I can just remember the scream, "Stevie!" It's like, oh,
what are you doing?
It's like, so I never got my Jim and the Holograms doll.
It's never too late.
I know. Come on, eBay. Plus they re-released it.
Probably like $500.
Right. You can find it on eBay.
Did they re-release it? I almost changed my name to Jem with a J.
That's funny.
Oh, that would be truly outrageous.
No. It was, I went through a lot of names and then I added on J. It was stupid. I should have gone back. I wish I had a year to live it out. I wanted it like my old name began with the letter J, so I wanted to keep the J. So then I was like, I tried out all sorts of different things, and I didn't want it too girly of a name either. I wanted something kind of, okay, because I'm not like a Veronica Angelica. I'm not like very, very girly. So
right.
So first I thought Gina with a J, but that looks like Gina. Then I thought like Jenna with a J. Then I'm like, what about Gemma? And then I landed on J, and I'm like, whatever.
Right. One syllable names are tough because, sometimes, they can be just perfect. But when people call me Steve, I'm here as Bloomer Teague, but my last name is Teague. And Steve Teague, it just doesn't, you got to have more than 2 syllables in a name.
Steve Teague.
Well, yeah, that's why when people call me Steve, I'm like, oh, no, I got to have 2 syllables.
Yeah, Steve Teague sounds like a bully, He sounds like
Teague, watch out for him.
Yeah, he was like the quarterback, and he gives people swirlies in the bathroom when no one's looking. Yeah, he's a
You got some nice shout outs here. Laura Chicornier says support comes from many surprising places. Love our chosen family. She also says we were lucky enough to meet Jay at an LGBTQ outdoor event a few months ago, and she came out to the audience afterwards and was so friendly and personable. Yes, you totally are.
Oh, she's great.
We had to connect with TriVersity. We had to connect her with TriVersity. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, Laura and Tyler. I met both of them.
Yeah.
They're
really great
people, such nice people. So.
Yeah. Well, they feel the same about you. I love calling out those shout outs because it's like we're in the virtual world now.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. And Simone said 1965 G.I. Joe was her first allowable doll.
Oh, that's because didn't they have a beard back in the day? Like, didn't the old ones have like this rough beard on it or something? Like, it wasn't like the cartoons. I don't know.
Well, I had action figures out the wazoo and would sit and have my piece of paper and have figure skating competition.
You really did love figures. You would do that?
I did. It's like, you might not give me my Jim and the Holograms doll, but I can use my Captain Planet and the Planeteers to be as gay as I absolutely will.
And they're pretty gay anyway.
I love it. So funny. Did you reenact the Olympics with them?
Well, of course.
Oh my! Like you made them do triple lutzes and.
Well, it's very hard to do a toe jump with the action figure because they're not pliable enough. So you have to do edge jumps and just flip them and see where they
Sounds to me
land.
like you mastered that, though.
It's an art.
Right. This isn't Captain Planet. It's Katarina Witt.
Oh, I loved her. She was one of my favorite skaters.
Yeah, I wanted to be her, I think. I'm pretty sure. Probably.
Who was that really flamboyant one? What was his name? Johnny Weir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Weir, they said, really revolutionized skating. I mean, he came out with makeup on and he just really pushed the limits. What's he doing now? I love playing that game with Johnny Weir.
I don't think Jay's a figure skating.
No, he's on the couch. Do you want me to put him on? Hold on. Let me get him.
Johnny Weir I can tell you what Johnny Weir is. He's now the NBC announcer for figure skating. So
is he still flamboyant, as they called him then?
That's what they called him. I think he's probably more flamboyant than ever these days.
I am happy for him. I always really liked him.
Growing up, they wouldn't say like people couldn't come out as gay even in the 80s and 90s. I mean, they couldn't come out as gay, otherwise they would be,
Get it? Yeah. Remember how?
I mean, despite knowing that practically everyone is gay,
right.
I mean, Liberace was straight in the eyes of the world. So come on.
Wow.
So Simone just wrote a question. She said, you mentioned The Matrix earlier when you were talking about that movie, and she said, was that the movie The Matrix? And I think that's right.
Right. Yeah, I was talking about like the music I listened to before a set, and I want that like angry like Neo music.
But the one thing Simone said that I found interesting, she also said earlier that The Matrix is the epitome of a transgender undertone movie.
Yeah, well, first of all, both the producers are now trans, so they transitioned from male to female. But also, one of the characters, they said they wanted them to be female in like the spaceship or whatever, but then male in the Matrix, which I thought would have been a cool thing.
Oh wow.
No, cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, me either.
That's what I love about doing this show. I learn all kinds of things when I'm here.
You haven't memorized IMDb from since your time in quarantine?
I memorized a lot more of it than I did before. That's for sure.
I know. I'm done with Netflix. I've even watched the Bollywood stuff, so now I'm not sure what to go with next. I guess.
Let me tell you. Do you like horror? Do you like horror movies? So it's The Haunting of Bly Manor. It's
is that good?
Episodes. And I'm so busy with writing and doing things. I never watch Netflix, but you know what? I tuned into this, and let me tell you, Jay, I was hooked. I told you guys, you need to watch it too. I thought it was really good. It was also confusing, but I get confused easily. So all I did was Google the things that I was confused about, and other people answered those for me. But it's scary. I thought it was scary, and I look forward to the episodes. So do it.
I finally saw Rosemary's Baby for the first time.
Best. That's the best.
I am sorry. I know I am in the minority here, but I saw Rosemary's Baby and it's building. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just thought the end was such a letdown.
I'm sorry it couldn't be as powerful as Gem and the Holograms.
You are hooked on Gem. I can't believe you didn't. Rosemary's Baby didn't do it for you. That was good horror.
Like the director, that's truly horrible.
Right. Horrible.
All I remember is like the overt sexism, at the time, and like misogyny, like him like smacking Mia Farrow on the ass. I'm like, holy, when was this made? And it was like, 68 or 67 or something.
Mary Weber Krause said, who needs scary? 2020 takes the cake.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
I have to give you this comment. Clover Welsh, who's someone I perform with, who's really so talented. I'm enjoying this interview with Jay so much. I can identify with so many things being said. Great to see her. I'd hope to meet her in person one day. Thank you for sharing your experiences in such a fun way. And I'm going to connect everybody because we do these shows on Zoom together. And I would love to have you meet some of the people that you would totally. Them. And they're all funny. They're all funny.
And Clover's a great name. It's a lot better than Jay. I can tell you that right. It's way better than Jay or even Steve.
Wendy is a pretty good name, though. Wendy is from Peter Pan. Wendy and the Lost Boys, and here we are.
And The Shining. Wendy, wasn't that Wendy?
God, I never thought of that.
Yes.
Wow.
That's one I haven't watched it for Halloween. It's always a favorite. Shelley Duvall is someone
she's great.
You completely root against.
She's really great.
You like worried that she's going to get hurt, but at the same time, it's like, well, if Jack Nicholson takes her out, is it really the end?
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, it's hard to not root for evil Jack Nicholson in any movie. You know, evil Jack Nicholson's still okay
because he's such a great performer, Jack Nicholson. You know.
So Jay, I mean, Simone mentioned, or Mary said, who needs scary 2020 takes the cake. I mean, these are really anxious times. And as a comedian, I mean, do you have any suggestions about how we kind of help us with that anxiety?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't know. I've been spending it writing a manifesto about how to topple society. That's been my go-to for I don't know. There's really, the thing is, it's I think everyone's getting a little bit stir crazy. I think everybody's having this like COVID fatigue, and I think that's a legit thing. Yeah. And I think it's just, I think like we just in any situation, I'm all for someone saying like, don't act like everything's all right. You need to self-care. You need to recognize these things, and you need to spoil yourself or like not beat yourself up for gaining 5 pounds and all these. I try and be goofy and funny but there's really the one thing I hope I take from this quarantine is that, there are people who are still by themselves who like to have someone reach out to them. There are people who are trans are at such a high risk of suicide. And there's so many people that I've just connected to like, hey, are you all right? Hey, are you all right? And, even though I didn't feel like it necessarily, and I think it's such a good thing to do, and I think like it helps you both feel better, and it's just hopefully we'll come out of this stronger. That's my hope.
Amen to that.
Amen.
So Simone just asked, what about the cartoon strip you were doing?
I have right now it's on Patreon. I don't have it released. I should put it out somewhere, but I have a couple things. I do like a Far Side type one panel thing. I say Far Side type. Nothing can hold a candle to Far Side. That's still the best comic out there. But I do these like one panel things, like New Yorker type stuff. But then I also started a series about a girl named Susie who has issues with her father and has never met her father until she finds out she is a daughter of Satan. So she's only 8. So she's trying to get a relationship with her father, Satan, and realizing that she has some of her father's traits. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. Speaking of Rosemary's Baby.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
That is, right.
I call it Susie Hellspawn, but I might just stick with Susie. I don't know. So it's I'm having so much fun writing that because I can go dark and just like, and it's such an interesting way to tell a story that's not like comedy. Like comedy is monologue, it's me talking to someone. Here you can create characters, you can have a conversation and make jokes that way. So
well, we have a surprise for you here. Hey Jay, it's your cousin Katie.
I'm not here.
Good. Great listening to this. A couple of years ago, Sean had told me about your Twitter feed, and I'm a follower. So there you go.
Katie is great. She is.
Hi, cousin Katie. Thanks for tuning in.
That whole side of the family, that's my mom's side of the family, and they're all amazing. Like the other side's hit and miss. Okay, but like that whole side, like her parents were like. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Katie and Sean and everyone on the whole McBride clan.
Well, that's great. They're all here to support you, which is great. So going forward, what are some of the projects that you have in mind for the next months? Let's just start with the next months.
Next month. All right. For the next month, I hope to continue with the comic strip, and I hope to eventually publish a book. I want to get enough to where I can put it in a book and get it out there for people. That not to necessarily make, it's fun to draw it, but when you're the only one who sees it or very few people see it, it's no longer as fun, it becomes like the crazy person drawing things. So I want to get something out there. That's my next big goal, I guess. And then, hopefully things will start opening up more and I can get back into some of the clubs slowly. I know like some of them are opening, some of them are coming there, and so we'll get there.
So how do people that have watched you today, and myself and Stephen included, how do we follow you? How do we find you? Give us some of your handles.
All right. Twitter, it's at Jaye McBride. It's JayeMcBride. I try not to be political. I try and be funny, but it's so tough. It's so tough. Friend requests me on Facebook. I still have, I'm only at 4,700. So I have room for 300 friends.
Right? 300. You hear that out there.
First 300. I know there are thousands of you watching this, but only the first 300 gets to. And also Instagram, JAYE.McBride.
Fantastic.
Okay. Give me that one more time. I'm posting these.
JAYE.McBride.
Yeah. And don't put your own name in there and try and steal my followers. Okay.
So
JAYE.McBride.
Okay, there we go on Instagram.
What about YouTube?
People can go to your YouTube channel too.
Yeah. What about YouTube? What are you guys up to the next month?
I will spend the next week in contemplative prayer for the election.
And get the covens ready. The covens need to come out in full force for this one.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, that's where we are. And then at TriVersity, we're planning to do a holiday show at some point on Zoom. In fact, sometime mid-month. So we'll start getting that work underway.
We'll be reaching out to you for that, Jay.
All right.
No ticky, no shirty.
All right.
For me, I have projects too. I started Pandemic Cooking with Wendy on YouTube, and that really took off. That was March 15th when I started it. And I do podcasts, I do radio shows. And I do a lot of things that I can do from the corner of my couch. Again, if someone had told me that I would be doing that, I would have said, are you out of your mind? But, I have to keep creating, as you do. We have to keep performing any way we can. I'm developing another show in New York, and I'll keep you.
Good for you.
Well, you know what? I don't stop. And I think I told you earlier, this whole thing, the fact that this happened, where the hell did this pandemic come from? Don't tell me it was a bat. Okay. Right. That a bat took out the world. I can't believe that.
Right. I don't know.
If you don't think you can do it, kids, just remember, a bat took out the world.
I love that, Stephen. Right?
Feel inspired.
Right. Jay, thank you so much. I was so
thank you guys
to this.
Thank you guys so much. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. So I really appreciate talking with you guys.
For us too. And again, I will come. And Stephen knows I support my friends. I'll Venmo you on Zoom. You have to tell me what shows you're in. And in the city, because I am in the city during the week, I'll come see you outside, wherever you may be.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. So, and if they want to see, I forgot, if they want to see my comics, it's on patreon.com/Jaye McBride. Yeah, I forgot about that. If they want to see the comics, but honestly, I don't know. No big deal.
If you have more, we'll just put it up.
And just so everybody knows, this is all in the comments, know, so whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, this pops up. So you'll have all of Jay's information wherever you are watching this right
now. Every detail about you, Jay.
I did actually see your pandemic cooking, Wendy. Like after we connected, it did a test. I went to your Facebook page. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm glad you're still creating. It's important.
Thank you.
Well, everyone, we are so grateful that you tuned in tonight. And, and thank you, Jay, for being here. And happy Halloween, because we will just past Halloween by the next episode.
Oh, my gosh. And we'll see everybody next Sunday night, November 1st.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.